Hey guys, so this was definitely a very interesting chapter to read, that's for damn sure. And well, let's just say it's definitely got, after last week's chapter, it's definitely got me thinking even more as well. Okay, so first off, we see, first off, the entirety of this chapter was pretty much the was pretty much one giant prison break. And I'm not gonna lie, the fact that Horikoshi well, pretty much chose for the entirety of this chapter to take place within the prison made it all the more unnerving. Not just because we basically saw a lot of old terrifying faces return, like muscular and moonfish and all those guys, but by being in such a claustrophobic space, it kind of enhanced the tension about how this truly is. It increased the tension and just the uncertainty of how this truly is a new chaotic age, and that point was especially driven home when the prison was basically attacked and pretty much and all for one was freed. Like it's one of those where it's one of those situations where just based off what you see, you know something's gonna pop, and when it does, it makes the whole situation all the more terrifying. Well, because it's presented as such a claustrophobic a claustrophobic like a claustrophobic backdrop and just and scene. But even more so than that, another way to look at all for one and to look at all for one's freedom and so many others breaking free is that this was basically All Might's final failure, and in a way, the final nail in the coffin to Hero Society, because not only had they, because if you really think about how this whole prison break and everything went down, by putting All for One in the prison, they had not only given him all he needed by locking him up with because with so many criminals now free, every single criminal free is now a potential follower to pretty much All for One, and for them to rally behind him. But for the longest time, All Might had assumed Shigaraki was merely All for One's predecessor in the same way Izuku was his. And from that perspective, that's pretty much all we saw as well. But now, with everything that we've learned and everything that's happened up until this point, and how deep and pretty much how deep and pretty much how deep and pretty much how deep Shigaraki's mental connection with All for One goes, All Might's inability in order to foresee this possibility of basically of Shigaraki having this mental connection with All for One is Shigaraki having this mental connection to begin with, and just him becoming so ingrained into All for One's life now. All this is it's basically all the for with him being unable to foresee this possibility at all is what's caused this to begin with, and because of that, All Might himself, because of his inability in order to foresee any of this shit to begin with, it's what's it's what's put him right back on track to being consumed by the shadow of death. Like and any pretty much at this point, anything we pretty much thought we pretty much thought that pretty much Izuku could do in order to pretend in order to protect All Might and prevent his death, yeah, all that is right back on track to happening. Like full stop now. Like All Might's All Might's failure is just, yeah, it's his constant failure and everything he had suppressed. It's all leading directly towards his death now. And okay, and speaking of death, though, there is something else I want to discuss, and it's something something that's been that's been brought up amongst the community up in the community for a while, and I wouldn't want it to be true, but at the same time, with Horikoshi and the direction he's taken the story now, To me, absolutely nothing is off the table, and especially if it means this, especially and this included from happening. Which is, and the thing I'm talking about is the very real possibility that Izuku's mother, Inko Midoriya, is dead. Again, I don't want to believe it, and I won't until I see a body. But at the same time, I there's looking back on just how destructive the events of the war were. It would make so much sense if she turned out to be dead, because honestly, there's and because the thing is, I've all because throughout the entire time I've been reading My Hero Academia, I've kept one I've kept one thing that Horikoshi has said offhandedly in the back of my mind, which is that to Horikoshi, one of his greatest inspirations for Izuku's character was Spider-Man, Peter Parker. And what motivated Peter Parker to become Spider-Man and to become a hero? The death of Uncle Ben. So I wouldn't be surprised if Horikoshi takes that story thread and runs wild with it. Because here's the thing, to Izuku, losing All Might would be one thing. But losing his mother as well, that that would be that losing the two most important people in his life, that would be the ultimate rebuke to everything Izuku has been fighting for and stood for throughout this entire time that he's been a hero, that he's been at UA and wanting to become a hero. It would be the ultimate way in order for him to confront the harsh, and it would be the ultimate way in which he would need to confront the harsh reality that he's been trying to prevent. But it would also strengthen his resolve even more and force him to find his own answer of what it means to be a symbol. Like his mother's death would would definitely do that. And also, I'm not gonna lie, it and but on a bit more of a less serious note, I get on a bit more of another note though. One thing honestly that Inko's death would do is that it would be probably one of the more like severe one of the more like catastrophic ways in order to bring Izuku's father into the story as well, because we have to remember that from what we know, Izuku's father is still alive, but we haven't seen him up to this point. Like, where the hell has he been? So so yeah. As much as I don't, again, I have to all wait and see until there's a body, but Izuku's but Inko's death would open so many doors for Izuku's character for sure. And yeah, again, it's something I don't want to believe, but I I can't deny that the possibility of it happening either. Uh, Now, the chapter also does briefly touch upon a very interesting concept that even I hadn't thought about until now, which is how the prison is treating its prisoners. Because you pretty much see the guards talking about them in this chapter. You see the guards talking about the prisoners, like all the prisoners that they have, like pretty much All For One and pretty much Kurogiri, all these people in prison as if they're less human than the rest of society. And you can see that but on a more general level, it does provide that kind of mindset, and how these guards are so willing in order to subvert human, like, deep basic human dignity and basic human rights. It does provide a very interesting insight into something we haven't seen all that much, which is more generalized hatred and even sort of racism, I guess. I don't know if you could call it racism or a belief of or eugenics belief. I don't know what you call it. Well, towards like quirks as a mere concept, and how to that guard, who I think actually that guard might I think it's probably like Prince Seiji's father, the guard is, but to Seiji's father, it's if that is Seiji's father, to him it's caused to him it's all a thing of quirks have done nothing but make society less than human, and and the quirks as a concept, they were nothing but a mistake. That's kind of it's kind of an interesting outlook to see that of where the whole hatred of quirks in general can pretty much take a person. Getting back to the whole prison angle, though, the guard's views are interesting in the sense where when you apply this to the real world, and you just take out the quirk aspect, though, that whole shit about violating human rights would still be going on because I don't think it's any secret to anyone that the prison system is far from being accommodating or a welcome place at all. And in real life, real human beings who end up prison get treated like garbage, just as much, if not more so, than the villains locked up here. So it's like, yeah, it's an interesting outlook in the sense where it doesn't matter where. It's a very realistic take in the sense of it doesn't matter what pretty much universe what world you live in. The prison system is the most barbaric is the most barbaric system in some ways. But yeah, guys. I haven't also we when we see the prison breakout, we see two new villains, I guess. I think they're two new villains, but yeah, they're two new villains. I don't know who those two are. I'm assuming that they're villains from the Hero Academia Hero Vigilantes manga. I don't know. I put reading that on hold for a bit, but yeah, I assume that they're from that manga, but we'll have to wait and see. But where Kokoshi's gonna take these two new villains. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.